free Golden Eagles for War Thunder. Download the app in the description below.
So after the last video on the mouse, which had a really nice viewership, I wanted to make another one, and I knew I had this one game lying around for quite a while now that I wanted to show. I just couldn't find it. I was going through the footage, a few terabytes of it, and I couldn't find this particular match I played. And then luck ran upon me because I realized that I had just recorded a different game and it was the end of that, and it kind of clogged over. Regardless, here we are on the Mossdock. This is not a map you want to play the mouse on. It just doesn't make any sense. It's a forest map, it's open ground, it's ATGM heaven. And of course, I'm going to spawn the mouse on a non-paved map with white camouflage. Yeah, still a cocky, arrogant player, right? I was going through a thinking process a few days ago. German tanks are named after animals. Leopard, panther, mouse, tiger. And as I was reading through these kind of schemes of names, it hit me that this is what I've been using as a learning curve for tanks for a very long time now, to decide which playstyle would be best to use. And it's not the naming scheme per se, it's the way the tank looks, right? What I've been doing is, I've unlocked a vehicle, and I would look at it, and I would visualize an animal. And so I would take these traits of the animal and try to kind of condescend them to the tank gameplay that you've got, as if the animal was, fighting in real life. And it sounds weird, but it works every single time, except that with the mouse, it just doesn't make any sense. I feel like Germans were trying to be ironic when designing this thing. Let's call it, a mouse. Something tiny, something sneaky, something inconspicuous, something that can't possibly do a lot of damage. And yet what my first thought with the mouse is this thing is a goddamn rhinoceros. I can almost see a nature documentary with, David Attenborough in the background just talking about how a herd of lions is attacking a rhino. And the rhino's like, this rhino does not give a shit. It just penetrates the lion and kills him right there and there. And it absolutely works. You drive this thing in the middle of an open field. You get shot by every gun in the map. You collect so many spawn points and they still can't kill you. You have gun depression, you have very few weak spots, you can always work around corners, you have this kind of overview. It's a thick tank. It is thicker than thick. So let's see this thickness in action. We're on Bravo. We're doing the main objective. We're kind of trying to be the main power horse of this team. Now, if you look at the map, we have 3 capture points. One is Charlie, that's for the enemy to have. One's Alpha, that's for us to have. And usually what happens is you would expect that heavy tanks that are stock would go for Alpha. No, it's the light RU-251s that instead of rushing Bravo, securing it, rush for Alpha, block half the spawn points for their friendlies, and then proceed to just sit at the side of Bravo doing minimum support. But we don't need their support. We don't need the help of peasantly wallet warriors. We have the mouse. So I've taken out the cannon breech of the T-54 1951 and I'm now engaging an IS-4M. Now the IS-4M is a very good target that is basically the Russian version of the mouse. It doesn't work the exact same way, it has a couple of different features, obviously it doesn't have 2 guns, doesn't have the same ammo values, but the IS-4M is the closest thing in the game to the mouse. Obviously besides the E100, which I'm still craving to this day. Now what I'm doing is, I'm trying to clear my flank, because obviously my team isn't clearing the flank, somebody else has to. The IS-4M has a very smart idea, he goes for the cannon breech. If he kills my cannon breech, I can't fire the gun. So what do we do? Well, what we do is we want to repair. We're not going to backtrack back to spawn like you normally would in a light tank. Instead, we're going to sit here and we're just going to soak up all the damage. Position yourself in a way that none of the targets you've spotted so far can potentially kill you, angling your armor. And as a bit of a surprise to the T-54, we still have our 75mm gun with a 100mm penetrating heat shell. And that thing comes very handy. First shot I put in somehow bounces off the turret of the T-44 and we get bombed by, I don't even know what. Whatever that thing that just bombed us did a horrible job at actually aiming, which is good for us. We've lost both of our tracks, we've lost both of our cannon barrels, but we're still in a perfect angled position. So all we got to do is wait those 15 seconds and see what the enemy decides to do. There's a lot of them, and yet all I have to do is just turn the turret around. This is a tank for old people. I think if my grandma ever wanted to play the game, this is the tank that I would give to her. Because it's so slow, you can hardly make a mistake. Everything you do just kind of falls into the pace of the match. And the only way that they can kill me is by flanking me. And the trick is, they can't flank me, because I'm literally sitting in the middle of the map, you know, preventing a lot of things from happening. I'm preventing my teammates behind me to get killed, I'm preventing our spawn to be overrun, and I'm just devastatingly holding down this position on the map. And it isn't until the T-54 finally figures out that he can flank me that I get some help from the Tiger 105. Great player, good positioning on the map, good reaction time, and unfortunately he gets taken out by an IS-6. But fortunately enough, that was enough time that we just had there bought by the Tiger 105 that the Rhinoceros is back in action. And this time, oh boy, it's not going to go down lightweight. This capture point is going to fall. I'm going to do everything that I can to get full control of it. First thing I do is I spot on the map the location of the IS-4 and then take out the T-44-100 that didn't even bother trying to angle his armor, just drove straight out into an open mouse position. Now the IS-4M had a very good position. He is ignoring me because he can't reliably kill me, nor can he reliably do damage. The IS-3 pushes out, forgets that his side armor can very easily be overmatched by the 128mm gun that we have, and then we re-engage the IS-4, which at this point has figured out that he might be a little bit screwed because the gun is starting to be reloaded. We put one into his side, and it just goes straight through. That was 3 kills in rapid succession that doesn't just give us a very nice point advantage, but also gives us the capture point. And the best part about the mouse is that when you put yourself into the capture point, or somewhere in the near vicinity of it, you become literally an immovable object, a bunker of massive destruction. However, we have 2 problems. The first one is that I'm a very aggressive player, and it's pretty boring sitting at the back of the map. The second problem is that we have 2 players remaining on the map. One is in a tank somewhere just in front of the spawn, and another has just spawned in an SPA. I am alone. I am 100% alone right now, and vulnerable to every susceptible possible attack. Whether it's a plane, a bomber, there's just not very much I can do. And so to make, you know, most of my spawn, I figured the worst thing I can do is sit in the spawn and wait to get killed. Let's push out. Let's venture a bit. Let's do a little bit of a spawn pushing. And the thing about, you know, why we have nobody on the map is down to what I mentioned at the beginning. It's a result of primarily RD251 players. These are wallet warriors who bought their first premium tank that are playing in a matchmaker where they steal all the spawn points for the heavy tanks, and then they don't do any teamwork. The heavy tanks die, can't respawn anything, and the RD251s, when they die, they have a bunch of free spawn points, which they decide to waste on useless fighters, which leads, of course, to a handful of players remaining on the match, and you have to go into a 1 versus 3 if you're lucky. Usually it's even worse, like a 1 versus 10. And it's just impossible to bring back matches like these because of simple number deductions. There's 3 capture points on the map, and there's no way in hell that the amount of players that we currently have, especially me and the mouse, could possibly try to capture these. Now, of course, the obvious answer here would be, why not just respawn a light tank yourself? Why not do, you know, more of the objective? Well, the answer is simple. If I respawn anything at this point, well, Bravo falls. And as soon as you lose position of Bravo, you've lost your position on the spawn because of the way the map's positioned. Bravo is in the middle, it's the middle hill. And once you have this capture point, you also have the overview of the entire map. So the only way that we could possibly bring back this game is by actually receiving some air support for once, because we haven't had any air support for this entire match. It's all been fighters flying around. And with 0 support for, you know, my current objective here, there's very little that I could have done. It was only a matter of time there, and the reload got to me. I got taken out by the T-54. Well, the cannon breach did, and the crew members. So with this, it's going to be a slower reload. I'm being already flanked by the IS-3. I was doing my best to kind of manipulate some additional damage score here by trying to additionally angle, actually cancel the repair, to readjust the position of the mouse that I had so that the T-54 would take 1 more shot to kill me, but I forgot about the IS-3. He goes around, finishes me with a shot to the turret, and this means we have now the option, well, decision, that is to respawn something. And when I see that my teammates have now finally captured Alpha again, which is the easiest capture point to have, and you should never lose. This is the type of map where you should never lose your home spawn. I'm now in a very dangerous position. I'm again in a slow tank, but I'm in the only tank capable of going back up that hill, capping Bravo, doing some more damage, and hopefully getting myself about 6 to 7, maybe 8 kills, if possible. I'm here to play the mouse. I don't care what the rest of my team is playing. I can see at least 3 players flying around in fighters. Completely pointless thing, considering we have 2 SPA on the team. Those fighters are not the problem, it's that they're not doing anything. I mean, it's kind of hilarious, because what's happening is it's so obvious for a player who's played so many matches myself, and I've mained close air support for the past few months. They're rushing capture points that are easy. They block spawn points for their heavy tanks. The heavy tanks die, they can't respawn. Now, you got a guy in a fighter who believes that close air support is the most overpowered and easy thing in the game. He spends all his spawn points he got by capturing the point that blocked his teammates. He then spawns in the plane. He does 0 damage because he doesn't actually know how to reliably, do damage, especially with the current patch. The H-Fire rocket has been halved in performance, for example. And what happens is he doesn't get any kills, which means he's not helping his team, but more importantly, he's not helping himself. He's now wasted all his spawn points, but given back no money. It's like, the return of investment is 0. So what he has to do now is he has to either, get shot down and then have to respawn SPA because it's the only thing he can respawn, which he doesn't want to do because obviously SPA is boring to play. So instead, he flies back to base. Now, a plane flying back to base, and in this match we had 3 of those, is 1 less player in the battlefield. Now, we already are fighting a 3 versus 7, maybe a 3 versus 8 match, whilst knowing that you have a platoon of aircraft that could potentially be in tanks, that could be strafing, could be doing some type of damage, but instead they're just flying around doing air superiority runs on a match where you don't need air superiority. Instead, you need ground superiority in terms of capture points. And I found myself in a bit of a jiffy here because respawning the mouse was in fact a mistake. That backup should have been saved up, but I knew it was my last match. I figured might as well play this one and go out with a big bang. And the issue was because we had a flanker. We had a guy, I believe, in an IS-6 or a T-44-100 sitting at the very side of it. And by the time I almost managed to get up the hill, you've guessed it, the only other tank we had died. The Cougar Blitz got taken out. It's now another solo game, and it's a solo game versus 0 capture points because we just lost Alpha. And obviously I could continue being salty and trying to explain to you how spawning anything in the game, not actually, doing any damage is going to be deteriorating for the team. I figured, screw it, let's instead go for what we wanted to do, the mouse destruction, get an extra 1 to 2 kills, finish that top team position, finish the spade grind, finish the last skin to unlock, and there we go, a nice upper frontal plate kill on the T-44-100, and then as a last kind of Zerg rush, I try to push into the last remaining player. I think it might be the IS-3 that we fought before. With the ticket bleed, I'm going to guess I have about 1 minute of time left before the match eventually just ends on its own. I'm going to have to ignore whichever guy was sitting on the flank, hoping that he can't kill me or at least doesn't see me, and just rush in there for that one final 8th kill. And I think this is where the mouse shines. I think, this kind of aggressive pushing maneuvers where you take a tank and just kind of aggressively go straight into the enemy's, hive almost. Is what brings this fear factor to the tank. And to finish this one off, I think nothing better than a pure shot trap on a T-54. So that's it for the mouse. I might make another video when I go through the retesting on the current kind of battle rating, because now the Leopard has been dropped down to 7.7 and the matchmaker is quite a little bit different, but in general, the way I'm going to put this is the mouse is fantastic. I like playing it, but every single time there's 2 things that are going to be holding you down. Your own performance and the performance of your team. Being in a light tank is easy because you can always go and push the objective. Being in a heavy tank, you're always limited to performance, relevant to how much work your team does on the map. And that was one of the disadvantages of such a performance match, because obviously for the 8 kills, if we had won that match, the research point would have been quite a bit higher. Do I care though? No, I don't. It's spaded, I've got all the camouflages, and I absolutely love my little rhinoceros.